Hi, thanks for joining us for the Family Plot, Gardening in the Mid-South. I'm Chris Cooper. It's hard to give houseplants the right amount of water. Today we're looking at building a self-watering pot. Also, garden chemicals have a label for a reason. Today we're going to show you how to read it. That's just ahead on the Family Plot, Gardening in the Mid-South.
Production funding for the Family Plot, Gardening in the Mid-South is provided by the WKNO Production Fund, the WKNO Endowment Fund, and by viewers like you. Thank you.
Welcome to the Family Plot. I'm Chris Cooper. Joining me today is Tanya Ashworth. Tanya is the garden educator at the Dixon Gallery Gardens in Memphis, Tennessee, and Mr. D will be joining me later. All right, Tanya, we get so many questions at the Extension Office about watering houseplants. How much?
Yes.
All right.
Well, it depends a lot on the type of plant that
Yes.
you're talking about. But I'm going to teach you a little trick of the trade
Yes, teach us a trick. We need that for sure.
Yes. So when my very first job out of college, moved to Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, and I was an interior plant technician, which meant I walked around the city with a watering can and took care of plants in office buildings, the U.S. Mint, really cool places all over the city. And so I'm going to show you the self-watering container system that we used there. And keep in mind, though, that not every single house plant is going to be well suited for this system. Most are, but there are some plants that like to go really dry, like it used to be called Sansevieria, but now they've changed the name to Dracaena, but mother-in-law's tongue is one. Cactus, maybe not so much. Ponytail palms, because they have that base that they hold water. But for most of your tropical plants, a self-watering system is a great way to go because it takes the guesswork out and it keeps the plants evenly moist.
Good.
It's also really good if you just forget to water. Maybe you only want to water once every other week, which is why we use the system. We could put our plants on a 2-week rotation.
Nice.
And so, yeah, it's a great method to use.
Yes, please teach us that method for sure.
Okay, so you can buy self-watering containers at the store, but we made our own there, and this is how we did it. You start with a decorative pot, no holes in the bottom.
No holes.
No holes.
All right.
And then that's the first component of your self-watering system. Then you need a riser. Your riser can be, this is just a saucer from a clay pot. It can be a piece of a brick. It can be, we used heavy-duty styrofoam. Whatever can be submerged constantly is okay to put in the bottom of your container as your riser. Okay, and then the third component is you need to get yourself some capillary mat fabric. This is a whole lot like felt. This is used in the nursery industry. They place these capillary mat fabrics underneath seedling trays, and you can water directly on this fabric and it soaks it in from the bottom. But we are going to cut ours into strips. This is readily available online. You can just, search in your search engine for capillary mat fabric. And then if you'll hand me that plant over there.
And what kind of plant is it?
This is a Monstera. Which is very hot right now, but this is a Monstera, and we are going to put our capillary mat strips into the drainage holes of the nursery container. Now, a lot of people, when they buy an interior plant, the first thing they want to do when they get home is take it out of this grow pot and pot it in something else. That's really not necessary. The only reason that'd be necessary is if there's way too many, if it's roots everywhere and girdled. So, sorry, let me just move this over. So if there's roots going everywhere and it seems pot bound, but most of the time you don't have to do that for 2-3 years sometimes. They're fine in these pots. So I take my capillary strip and I'm using a long screwdriver, and you're just gonna shove it into the drainage hole here.
How about that?
Make sure you get it in there pretty good. And you leave some to dangle so that it will reach to the bottom of your deco pot after this is on the riser. You want to do at least 2 strips, one on each side.
And get it in far enough.
Yes.
How about that?
Now it's able to soak up from the bottom of your container.
Okay.
That's the basics of a self-watering system. And then you just put this down in here and you water right straight into this space, and you can fill up the entire water reservoir. Maybe it's 2 or 3 inches tall, that riser, and you won't have to worry about it until that reservoir is empty.
Wow.
Now, let's say you've got a ginormous pot and you're not going to be able to see in the bottom to see if there's any water in that reservoir. What do? Well, you need a few more things to go in your pot at that point. So this is just clear plastic tubing, which I bought on the internet. It's used for like shipping and things like that. And you cut it to size. So the height of your container, you want to cut little notches in the bottom to allow the water to go in.
All right.
They come in different lengths, but usually you'll have to buy your tubing and then cut it to size, which is what I did with that one.
Okay. And I see it's easy to cut.
Yes,
so
just scissors.
Okay.
Okay, since I already know this one's the right length, I'm just going to pop that right down in there. It's right there.
Okay.
Then you're going to make a bobber.
Bobber, all right.
Now this is 3/16 of an inch plastic tubing. You get this from aquarium supply stores or pet supply on the internet.
Okay.
We use all sorts of things in gardening, don't we?
I see. Make use of everything.
Yes,
All
and
right.
then you're going to cut it to size. You're going to want it to cut it off to where it'll be even with the top of that tube. Very simple to cut. But I'm going to leave a little bit more because we're going to put a bobber on it.
Gotcha.
Okay, this is, I know most of you have this at home. It's just
I think we know what that is.
cork.
Yeah.
So I took, if you can find them, these are, you know, dangerous now, but ice pick.
Yeah.
Make your little hole there, your ice pick. And then you can use some hot glue too, if you need to make it where it won't come out.
Okay.
But you're gonna put this little piece of clear plastic tubing into your cork, like that. Okay, so mine didn't go in that far, so now I'm gonna cut the top like this.
Gotcha.
All right, then, to make it look pretty, because this doesn't look attractive, this is foam from an upholstery store. Like if you were going to reupholster a chair or something.
Okay.
This is the most expensive component of all of this, by the way. You would not believe how expensive foam is.
How about that?
But anyway, I've already measured this, and you just cut it with regular scissors, or a serrated knife actually works the best. And you make yourself a little collar, and we're gonna hide all of this.
Look at that. How about that?
We're gonna hide it all with just inexpensive Spanish moss. You can use pebbles, you can use any kind of moss that you'd like to use.
I love gardeners. Make everything look so pretty, right?
Resourceful, right?
Oh God, resourceful makes it look beautiful.
And then maybe if we had a little more, I might put a little more and hide the foam real well. But in the end, you're not gonna see all of that.
You're not gonna see it, right? That's funny.
You'll cover up the foam, and and this is clear.
Okay.
And now let me show you
clear.
the right way to water it. Now
Okay.
this is a brand new system, so the very first time you water it, you're gonna water from the top to saturate, make
Yeah,
sure you get the
saturate,
soil saturated, and you're gonna fill up that reservoir.
Okay. I think watering is the #1 question you get about houseplants these days.
Yes.
What you think?
Water, how much do you water?
How much do you water?
And then probably insect problems are
Yes.
#2. Look, that bobber is already starting to float.
It sure is. How about that?
So another thing you can do,
Golly.
you can, if this is a really big container, you could measure how tall your riser is. Let's say my riser is 2 inches tall. Then
Okay.
you get a Sharpie, measure 2 inches, make a mark.
Okay.
And when the bobber is up where that mark is, you know your reservoir is full. And so now to check your plant, you do this. If it floats, you're done. And that's pretty much all there is to it. A little DIY for you.
I like that. That's pretty neat.
Good,
We need
yeah.
to get more people to do this. And
Yes.
that way you don't have the question about the watering, right?
Right. You can,
Oh
if you
my
tell us
gosh.
what kind of plants you've got, we can tell you this is great for aglaonemas and
Oh, man.
pothos, philodendron, all of your tropical plants that like to stay evenly moist.
Okay. And for the
Now-
most part, like you said, it's pretty inexpensive?
Yeah.
Other than the phone?
Yes,
Get it
the
done?
only problem is you may have to buy these in
okay.
a multi-pack. It's hard to find just one of these.
Okay.
And the phone, but after you have all of your components, then you can make a bunch. So
Tanya, thank you much.
you're so welcome.
Oh, that is pretty neat, pretty neat. Got to get one of these at home, y'all. Thank you, Tanya. Let's get to translocation, since you mentioned that earlier when we were talking about systemic.
Yeah, that's a good one, you know, and when we think about translocation, that's just movement, throughout the plant. That's all that means. Stuff that's translocated. And usually it's through the vascular system of the plant, you know, through the, like our arteries and veins, which is, you know, we'll throw out a couple more big terms, phloem and xylem.
Right. That's right. And I always remember xylem is Zahai.
Yeah, yeah.
It takes water up.
Yeah,
Okay.
it's hard. Sometimes it's hard to remember which one's which. I always have to kind of think about it. One's moving up, another's moving down.
Yeah, phloem is moving down. Yeah, I
Yep.
remember that from classes. How
Yep.
about that? All right, Mr. D. We always tell folks to read the label.
We always tell folks to read the label. If we don't, we made a mistake.
That's right.
And forgot to.
That's right.
Because anytime you use a pesticide, it's extremely important to read and heed
That's right.
the label.
Heed. Yeah.
And
Heed and heed.
there's probably a lot more money went into developing the label on these products than went into the active, you know, the product that's in the bottle.
Right.
Because it takes years for a product to be labeled. It's tested in the field, it's looked at for several years, and it's tweaked. The rates are tweaked by biologists and researchers, and when the label is finally approved by the Environmental Protection Agency, then you're good to go. And because of that, you and I can make no recommendation that's off-label. We can't make any recommendation that's inconsistent with what's on this label. Now, all labels, there are things that are required by federal law to be on every pesticide label. And I've got a few examples here, and I'm going to go through
Okay, let's do that.
some of those things, not all of them. It's pretty easy to go to the law and find out exactly what has to be on every pesticide label.
Sure.
But the first thing that I look for on a pesticide is the active ingredient.
First thing I look for. That's
And
right.
this is an example. This is the trade name is 7.
Right.
The active ingredient is down here on the bottom in real small print, kind of like on some of the food items that we look at. And this is carbaryl, 22.5% carbaryl. So I know that's the active ingredient, and that's the only pesticide that's in here. It is 77.5% other ingredients. Now, so I see that. So every pesticide label is going to have the trade name, it's going to have the active ingredient and the percent active ingredient.
Okay.
That's not all of the label. If you
not
notice,
it.
this is not just one-page label. This has the insects that it will kill. If it's a herbicide, it'll have the weeds that it'll kill. If it's a fungicide, it'll have the diseases that it's designed to control. And when you open it to page 1, yeah, it's a book.
Yeah,
it's
it is.
a book
It's
attached
a
to
mini
this
book.
container. This tells you first aid.
Yeah.
Every pesticide label has instructions on first aid. There's a note to the physician. If someone is poisoned or accidentally ingests one of these products, it's very important that you take the label with you, take the product with you to the doctor, because here, the note to the physician tells the doctor what the antidote is. Atropine is antidotal. It's got a telephone number for medical emergencies, 24-hour-a-day phone number that you can call. Talks about precautions regarding pets, animals, and children, and environmental hazards. You do not want to spray it very close to my fish pond. This will tell you when you look at the environmental hazards.
Right.
Every label, somewhere on that label, has this statement right here, and this is the only thing that I'm going to read word for word.
All right, let's go for it.
Under directions for use, it says, it is a violation of federal law to use this product in a manner inconsistent with its labeling. read the entire label before using this
There
product.
it goes.
They're really very interesting.
Yeah.
It's interesting reading, especially, well, if you're in our line of work.
Right,
it's
yeah,
interesting
we do
reading.
it all the
But
time.
you learn a lot, and it's so important because trade names change, active
yes.
ingredients
Yes.
change,
That's true.
and there are restrictions that have a list of do nots that you go through. And then as you get further over in here, storage and disposal. How to dispose of the container when you get finished, and how to store it. And very, very important information to know. Most pesticide containers, you can triple rinse them. Once you finish, triple rinse them, put the product back in your sprayer, as you're finishing up, and then you can throw the container in the garbage most of the time. But you need to read the section on storage and disposal to make sure. It'll go. There'll be specific instructions on different crops. This is blackberries, blueberries, ornamental trees, shrubs, and flowers. Everything that you can use it on. If it's not on here, I can't recommend that you use it. If you accidentally spray it on your broccoli plant, and broccoli is not on here, I cannot suggest that you eat that broccoli. I mean, you can't make any recommendation that's inconsistent with the labeling. One other thing that all labels have is a signal word. It's a very simple signal word. The caution, warning, and danger.
Yes.
Most of the products that we see at the lawn and garden centers, most of them have caution on them. And let me show you. I'm going to show you on all of these products where that word is. It's all caps, all capital letters here. Caution. Let me grab this one over here. This is horticultural oil. All seasons horticultural and dormant spray oil. Look, caution.
There it goes. Yeah.
The caution is low toxicity. That means it's low toxicity, low mammalian toxicity, so it's not that toxic to humans or mammals. Roundup, herbicide, look here. Caution. All caps. I've got an example of an agricultural pesticide label that I took off of a 2.5 gallon jug right here. I didn't want to bring the jug in, but it's Lorsban 4E. Look, warning.
Warning. Yeah.
So warning indicates that the product is moderately toxic. This one happens to be also a restricted use pesticide. So a homeowner can't buy Lorsban. But again, warning is moderately toxic. Most restricted use pesticides carry the signal word danger.
Okay.
And if they carry the signal word danger, and the word poison is also on there, and you'll see a little diagram of a skull and crossbones.
That's right.
So that should
right.
tell you if it's danger, that means that it is highly toxic by at least one route of exposure.
Okay.
Which could be, and there are several routes of exposures, and it is on the label. Will tell you which route to look for. It could be inhalation, breathe it in. It could be ingestion, or through your skin.
Okay. Wow.
But read the label, read and heed the label. Very, very important.
Look, I have one last question for you, though.
Okay.
We have a label. We can't just deface the label, can we?
You've got to follow the label,
Okay.
and you've got to use the product in the container according to the label instructions. You can't take the product out of this container, put it in another container that's not labeled,
Right.
because you need to have the label with the product all the time. But this is a legal document that we're bound by law to follow.
And the label is the law.
The label is the law. That's right.
Mr. D, good stuff.
There's a difference between law and policy. This is not a policy that we
the law.
generally follow from time to time like I used to do in my work before I retired. This is the law, and you've got to follow the law.
Got to follow it. You got to follow the law. Thank you, Mr. D. We appreciate that. It's good stuff.
Milkweed is a very important plant to have in your garden because it's the host plant for the monarch butterflies' caterpillars. This is the only thing that they will eat. So it's very important that we grow it. Now, unfortunately, it's also a favorite plant for these little bright yellow aphids, and they are completely covering these things up. So the thing is, we want to protect our monarch caterpillars. We don't want to hurt them with an insecticide. So what we can do is just hose it off with water to try to get as many of the aphids off that we can. Or we can just simply wait for the ladybugs to show up, because pretty soon we'll have our beneficial insects arriving in our garden in the form of ladybug larvae. Make sure you know what they look like so you don't kill them, and adult ladybugs, and they'll help take care of the problem too. But for now, since we don't see any ladybugs, I'm just going to hose them down. Now, we're not going to get every single aphid this way, and you may have to do this every day for a while because they will come back quickly. All right, that took care of most of our aphids.
All right, Tanya, here's our Q&A segment. You ready?
Yes.
Great questions here. All right, here's our first viewer email. I recently decided to add some color to my apartment patio with bleeding hearts and a peony. They have done absolutely wonderful, and I'm looking to expand. The problem is that I'm a first-time grower. My balcony isn't the largest, and it gets mostly shade and 3 to 4 hours of afternoon sun. Are there any specific flowers or vegetables that I can successfully grow on my balcony? This is Jordan from Memphis, Tennessee. I like that. First time grower. You know,
yes.
She wants to get involved. I think that's really good. Wants to add some color to her balcony. So can we help?
Yes, absolutely. I just love it when somebody takes up gardening as a hobby.
Yes, yes.
Now, unfortunately, you've got too much shade to grow any vegetables. And really, herbs are going to be tricky in 3 to 4 hours of sun. They really like 6 like your vegetables do. Although you probably can get away with trying some rosemary in pots. But you're going to be growing things in containers, obviously, and you can. There are a wide range of things that you can grow. As far as annuals, you can do coleus. Coleus can take some shade, impatiens, and begonias. And there's just a multitude of different kinds of begonias that you can grow. Your standard begonias, angel wing begonias. You can have lots of fun with begonias. And then as far as perennials, things that you can plant and will come back every year, hostas. And since you're a new gardener, don't panic when they die all the way to the ground. They're going to come back the next year. Heucheras, common name is coral bells. Creeping Jenny for nice little spiller there on the edge of the containers. And you can also try a lot of different cool ferns. So lots of things you can play with.
Lots of things to play with. That's pretty cool. Now I will add this. If you got 4.5 hours or 5 hours of sunlight, there are some vegetables you could try, and they'll be your leafy vegetables. Yeah, your lettuce, you know, your kale, cauliflower, broccoli. If you had just a little bit more sunlight, you can get away with those. Yeah, again, your leafy vegetables.
And those are cool seasons.
And a cool season.
And you want to plant those around Valentine's Day.
That's right, that's right. I'm glad you pointed it out. So there you have it, Jordan. Good luck, and congratulations on being a first-time gardener, right?
Yes, it's
we think that's pretty neat, pretty neat. Thank you much. All right, here's our next viewer email. There are several yellowing and spotted leaves on my gardenia, and I cannot pinpoint the cause. I tried to research this online, but still am not sure what the problem is. And this is Amy from Memphis, Tennessee. So what do we think the problem is with the gardenia? Because there's definitely a lot of spots on those leaves.
Yes, I was looking at the spots. You could see that they were kind of brown and bullseye kind of pattern almost. You can see rings,
the concentric rings,
which makes me think maybe that's Rhizoctonia, and usually caused by too much moisture. Also, I've got a gardenia in my backyard here in Memphis, and they're kind of marginal in Memphis anyway, but it's on the south side of the house. Anyway, too much moisture. So mine get yellow leaves too because my dogs like to dig underneath them, and then the rain just sits there. And so I understand I have also yellowing leaves, and too much moisture is probably why.
I think it's too much moisture, but what can she do about that though? You know, at this point, I mean,
yeah, not a lot.
It's gonna be tough.
We just had a really wet spring.
Yes, we did. Yeah.
Yes,
there's no doubt about that. And two, if you notice the picture of the plant is pretty close to the house. So maybe it's not getting that air circulation it needs to dry those leaves off. So that would be a concern, you know, to me as well.
Yeah, if you could move it, maybe it would help.
Right. Yeah, if you could move it, of course, make sure it's in a well-drained area, right? Kind of plant it up a little bit to get the water off his feet. Okay, off his roots, so to speak. All right, Miss Amy, hope that helps you out. Here's our next viewer email. I have many Japanese maples, and in the spring, whole branches or sections of the trees don't leaf out. These branches die, and I have to remove them. My reading has said this might be a borer, but I see no real evidence of this. I know my pH is very high. Could this be a cause? I put elemental sulfur down around some of my evergreens, which helps. How do I keep the limbs of my Japanese maples from dying? This is Corey on Facebook. Good question. It's the one that we get quite often. So what are you thinking?
I'm thinking environmental conditions.
That's what I'm thinking.
It could be too much sun. Some Japanese maples like to be planted more in shade. It just depends on the variety. So if you're trying to grow one that likes shade and too much sun, it could be not getting enough water in the summer. It could be drought issues. If you have heavy wind, when the buds start to break, it dry the buds out.
Yeah.
There are different reasons why that might be happening.
It's just so many different causes. It could be too much mulch.
Yeah.
It could be planted too deep. But what I'm thinking is, let's go back to our weather pattern, especially last year to this year. Sun scald might be an issue. And if sun scald was an issue, then of course it's going to cause cracks in the trunk. Those cracks over time are going to get what? Start getting bigger. And once it gets bigger, it compromises the uptake of water and nutrients to the upper part or the upper canopy of that tree, which causes limbs to die.
Right.
Because they're not getting water and the nutrients they need. So that may be an issue as well. But at the end of the day, how about just pruning out those dead limbs?
Yeah.
We just start with that and just kind of see what happens, you think? All right.
Yeah.
So Corey, we hope that helps you out. So good luck with your Japanese maple. All right. Tanya, it's been fun as always. Thank you much.
Thank you for having me.
All right. Thank you. Remember, we love to hear from you. Send us an email or letter. The email address is familyplot@wkno.org and the mailing address is Family Plot 7151 Cherry Farms Road, Cordova, Tennessee 38016. Or you can go online to familyplotgarden.com. That's all we have time for today. Thanks for joining us. We ran through how to build a pot pretty quick. If you want to go back and watch it again, head on over to familyplotgarden.com. We also have lots of other good videos there. Be sure to join us next week for the Family Plot, Gardening in the Mid-South. Be safe.